One skill that all architects value.
Drawing.
Drawing.
We all learn how to draw.
Now, that isn't exactly true. I already have 2 degrees in architecture and I still can't draw very well. I'm going to learn how to draw. Now, we all know one thing. Learning takes time. And how am I going to learn how to draw in one video? Well, let me explain it with a little diagram. If we draw the time graph of learning a skill, what you'll find is it is a reverse exponential. That looks like this, but that has one massive positive. What it means is that you can make the most amount of progress in your first few hours. Now, while scrolling YouTube looking for tutorials for how to draw, I found this awesome artist, Stephen Travers. He does these absolutely beautiful drawings of ornate buildings, of external scenes, and even of nature. And luckily for me, he has a load of awesome tutorials. He shares all of the references of the photos in his image. And so I've devised a plan. In this video, I'm going to do 5 drawings, roughly an hour each. 4 of those will be chosen from references of videos I've seen on Stephen's channel. And then the 5th drawing will be one of my own from a photo I've taken in the hopes of applying what I've learned. Now, here we have my first drawing. Now, this is a very simple house and I chose it because I could practice getting the perspective right. It's quite a simple structure and it's mainly just simple outlines. So I was hoping this would be a simple starter. Now, I gotta be honest, almost instantly, I was like, holy shit, this is gonna be way more difficult than I thought. And it's because fine liner is a really difficult medium. As you can see, you can't produce any sketch lines to kind of get proportions right. You can't rub things out, and it's also super bold. So once you've put a line, it's always going to be visible. And what I found with this is therefore your lines have to be really kind of confident and intentional, and you kind of just have to go with it. So what you'll see at the start is I essentially do this very light hatchy style, and I don't think it looks very good. So I kind of just had to start to try and do solid lines. Now, as you'll see, although the final image looks quite nice, there are definitely some key mistakes. So firstly, I got my perspective completely wrong. As you can see, I had to extend the building out. And also I wasn't very happy with this brick texture. And I think it really throws off on the piece. And here is the finished drawing. So moving on to drawing 2. I chose this church. The reason being was, since my proportions were a bit incorrect, I thought this would be a good opportunity to practice them because it's got this very simple box shape, and getting that right would mean that the bottom half was right. Now, what you'll see in this drawing is I think the proportions are off, and I definitely mess up a few key details. For example, the kind of castling at the top of the building. And this really taught me something. It kind of made me realize that you really have to take your time. And I realized as I was drawing more and more, the real benefit of planning my line work before I actually put it down. So my previous style was just grab a pencil and just start putting things onto paper and bulk it out. But because you can't make changes in fine liner, I really had to ensure that each line was intentional and purposeful and represented something I saw in the drawing. So it was definitely an interesting learning curve, but I really felt myself improve over time and get better as I started to do more. And here is the final drawing. Let me know what you guys think. Now, moving to the 3rd drawing. I chose this really interesting drawing with the post. I thought, again, it would help me with the perspective practice, but also to see if I could kind of get my sizing right. It was, as you saw in the previous one, that top bit was completely the wrong size. So I thought this had a load of reference points and it was getting a little bit more complex in terms of image content. So it gave me a little bit more of a challenge. So as you can see, like in Stephen's tutorial, I do the first bar at the top and I kind of just build it out from that point. Now, the best technique I've found is draw a single line and then kind of figure out the proportions off that. And I definitely started using a lot more dots before drawing line works because it would enable me to make sure things looked right and kind of stayed in line. Now, I really love drawing these posts. I think they were really fun. But as you'll see here, I messed up on the second one because I for some reason started at the bottom and worked my way up and they didn't line up. And unfortunately, I think that is one of the biggest mistakes in this piece. Other than that, I was really happy with it. But as you'll see, I kind of just keep building it out. Now, this video is on 400% speed, so please keep in mind these drawings did take a while, and I will pop on how long they took on the screen at the end. Now here you can see, because I'd obviously messed up the post, I tried to kind of hide the detail in this window. It still kind of looked a bit off, but I do think I was able to detract from the wonky beam a little bit. So, you know, all of this, it's very, very important to realize that this is just art, this is all practice, and you kind of find yourself starting to not only enjoy it more, but also producing better work when you stop being so hard on yourself to expect to do really perfect work. And like anything, it's just time. So I found that if you just keep taking your time, doing bit by bit, you can really start to progress quite fast if you pay attention to the fundamentals and you keep an open mind. And here is the final drawing. And then now we move on to my final referenced image, and it was one that Stephen used to do a fast sketch just to show about the importance of proportions, but I wanted to take a little bit longer, and it is the Arc de Triomphe in France. Now this is really difficult because there is so much detail work of these statues, of these kind of ornate detailings, and one of the techniques that Stephen talks about a lot is signifying the effect of the detail without drawing the detail. Because a fine liner is so black, if you were to try and draw in all this detail, you would basically end up with a black blob. And the point is you're trying to use the highlights and the shadows to suggest what it looks like rather than actually draw the real building. Now, you have to remember this is art and it's not supposed to be a copy of the photo. And so it's more of an interpretation, and therefore you can kind of choose to highlight and push and pull what details you want. Like for me, as you can see in the reference, you can't really see under the arch, but I really like the idea of putting more detail in because it would look shaded, and when you move up close, you do see more detail. And overall, it's the same kind of process. You start with a solid reference point, and you kind of work your way on. Now, I definitely found that it is super important to get all of your line work and all of your proportions correct at the start before adding the detail, and essentially get your foundations, and then you can build up from there. And I really started to enjoy drawing at this point. I was very nervous at the start and I found it quite difficult, but by the time I got to this drawing, I was really enjoying it and I kind of wanted to keep going. And I ended up doing my 5th drawing straight after it. And now, as you can also see, we've got these cars. Something that Stephen talks about is to kind of just block in details. You're trying to represent the image and not actually copy it. And so I stayed a bit loose with my lines. As you can see, I start to get a bit more confident and I really start having fun with it. And I find that the result actually becomes a lot better. I start doing these fun, messy lines. And when you do them correctly, they really continue as part of the style rather than just random line work. And I was really happy with this final image. And here it is. Let me know what you guys think. Now, moving on to my 5th image. So I'm currently in Mexico City, and this is actually a photo I took of one of the Parliament buildings, I believe, in the center. And I thought it was a beautiful building, but I thought this would be a challenging start because the building is so small and there's so much detail. I thought it'd be a good challenge to kind of apply what Stephen teaches about detail. So let me phrase. So when drawing detail, as mentioned, he talks a lot about signifying and showing the effect of the detail and not actually drawing every little bit of detail itself. So you're trying to show where shadows are, where edges are, and you're trying to pull out all of these little details that, although close up might just look like squiggles, at a distance, your aim is to have a representation of the image. Now, I was definitely nervous with this one. I didn't want it to look blocky or copied, but again, it's the same process, just kind of building up bit by bit. And it became very easy to do these windows messy because there were so many. But I realized just to keep the lines, keep it all looking similar. And I really started to enjoy it. And I do believe that this drawing is probably one of my better ones. And so here are all 5 images. Let me know what you guys think. Do you think I've progressed? Do you think I've learned how to draw better? So the lesson to take from this is you're never going to be good at anything, but if you're willing to dedicate a bit of time, you're going to make loads of progress. So just start, just have a go and really try to enjoy the process. After a while, when you get into it, it becomes very fun. Other than that, I'll catch you guys in another video, and click here to watch a video that YouTube recommends.